The day I graduated college in 2005, I decided to start a rental company. It took a few years until it became successful enough to be my full-time job, but now it's all I do. My hope is to help you by sharing my knowledge.
So this video is not going to be a short one. This is a longer one because it's all about insurance, complicated stuff. I've had a Patreon ask, and someone left a comment last night in my delivery video about questions about insurances. And I might get yelled at by some more experienced guys because I'm going to say a few things about when I started. But I made a video a while ago, like one of my first videos when I sucked at this, saying how I made some of my own side poles and center poles. And then these guys messaged me and said, why are you telling these people this? They need to buy from the manufacturer. So they may yell at me. And basically when I started, I had 3 tents. And then the following year, I had 10 tables and 100 chairs. And I was just working out of my mom's SUV. I didn't even register as a business, which was probably a bad thing. I obviously got away with it. But, and I didn't have insurance either, 23, 24, just risked it. Insurance is kind of expensive, and if you're only making, let's say your first year you have 2 tents and you only make $10,000, do you really want to pay $1,500 to an insurance company? I mean, you probably should to cover your ass, but at that point when you're young, you're not thinking right. So anyways, I did not. I don't thinking back on it, I probably, I should have. And maybe not my first year, but my second year, I should have just spent the money on it because it is risky to not have insurance. But anyways, we're going to start with probably what I think is the most important insurance is liability insurance. You put up a tent, you got your ropes coming down to your stakes, and someone trips and bashes their head on a stake, and they get really hurt. If you don't have insurance, they're coming after you. You're going to have to pay their bills. You're going to have to pay if you get sued, things like that. But if you got liability insurance, it covers if anyone gets hurt on your equipment. When I was younger, I should have had the liability insurance at least, because I can, take a loss on a tent, but I can't take a loss on, however much medical bills and getting sued would be. So liability insurance is definitely the first thing you should get. I don't think it would be that expensive if that's all you're doing. But you want to protect yourself because that's where people will come and get you and try to sue you. Heaven forbid someone gets hurt. I've never had anyone get hurt, so I never had to use it, but it's there just in case. Then the next one is called inland marine insurance. It's an insurance term. I don't know. I don't know the whole history why it's called inland marine. But anyways, it covers your equipment not only at where you're storing it, but also on site. So if something gets damaged on site, like a tent comes down in a windstorm, it's covered there. If there's a fire at your warehouse or wherever you're storing it and you lose something, it's covered there. So that's like the second thing I would get, because as you start getting larger and getting more equipment, you're not going to be able to replace all that equipment if something bad happens. Also, if a big expensive tent comes down, it's quite a big chunk of change to replace that for the next week if you need it. So first liability, then inland marine. Then auto insurance. When I first started, obviously I was just using my mom's SUV and then my own personal Chevy S10. But as I got a little bigger, I needed to rent trucks from Penske Ryder Enterprise. And they do have insurance that you can buy daily, but it is very, very expensive. So I got someone backing up over there. Let me pause for them. So anyways, the insurance through the truck rental company is expensive. So you can just take your personal vehicle and put it on a commercial policy, and that also covers rented vehicles. And then when you rent a vehicle from them, your insurance company, you just have your insurance company send them your proof of insurance and list them as an additional insured. And then you can take out any truck anytime, whenever, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's a lot cheaper than buying the insurance through them on a daily rate. So once you get larger and you need to rent trucks or supplement your current inventory of trucks, then you definitely need the commercial insurance just to do that. But also, if someone gets hurt while you're driving or an employee of yours is driving, you're going to definitely need that auto, because your liability won't cover that because it was on the road. It was a road incident. And I I've never had to use an auto claim. I've never used a liability claim. I have used inland marine. I had a 30 by 60 come down. We set it up. A half hour later, a huge windstorm came and just destroyed the tent. So I put a claim in, and then by the next week, I had a brand new tent. So that was good. Otherwise, I would have had to come up with all that money to buy that tent and have it to me for the next weekend. And then, okay, so auto. Then after auto is a workers' comp. Once you have people on the books, not saying that I ever had them off the books, but once you take your employees from off the books when you're small to on the books, you need workers' comp. There's a lot of jobs that you'll quote for businesses or municipalities like the city or town, and they will require proof of workers' comp. And you just need it to cover yourself if an employee gets hurt. So workers' comp is a little more difficult. It's harder to get. It's probably one of the more expensive ones. There's a rate tied to each kind of thing that is done. So my office guy gets 37 cents for every $100 I pay him, which isn't bad. He's classified as an office worker, doesn't handle any of the stuff back here. Now, our installers and driver crew, they cost about $20 for every $100 that I pay them. So I got one guy who's going to be making $17 an hour. He's my main guy. He's like a great guy, best guy ever. But $17 an hour for him. And then I got to pay his Social Security and other things, every time I pay him. And then with that workers' comp put on, he's about a $25 an hour employee. He's getting 17, but the costs to me are more. So it is very expensive. Plus, with workers' comp, you're going to get audited every year by the workers' comp. They're going to come. They're going to look over your books. They're going to take your checkbook. That's something. You got to keep every copy of every check you ever wrote because you're going to get audited at some point, and they want to see that. I didn't know that, and I just kind of threw them away, and then I had to take a long time to go get the bank and get copies and pay $4 a copy. It was annoying. Anyways, they're going to come and see what your payroll was and any checks that you wrote, because they're seeing if you wrote a check to an individual and paid them, off the books, which is stupid. Why would I write a check to an individual? Let me just give them cash. You can't see that. Anyways, so you got to give all this information to the workers' comp insurance company, and they'll either adjust your rate. Sometimes you might get a credit. Maybe you paid too much for the estimated amount that they were charging you. Maybe you're spot on, or maybe you owe them money. And then they'll also adjust your rates for next year based on the current year. So you will get audited. It is expensive. It's the most expensive insurance that I deal with. So that's it. You got liability, which you need for sure. If you can start with it, start with it. Inland marine to protect your equipment. Auto to protect yourself from hurting someone on the road or total loss of a vehicle. And workers' comp once you have employees on the books. It's very important. Now back to the liability side. When you start renting a space from someone, they're usually going to require that you provide proof of insurance for liability and list them as an additional insured. That way when someone comes on premises, either an employee or a customer, if they slip and fall or get hurt, then you're covered, and them as a building owner know that your insurance policy is taking care of that. They're not going to be hit with $1 million lawsuit because someone slipped on their property. You're renting from them. You have the liability insurance, and you have listed them as an additional insured. So if anything goes down where someone gets hurt, your insurance company is also going to kind of represent them in a way and their insurance company is going to be like, nope, you can't sue us. You got to sue the tent company or whatever. So those are the 4 main insurances. Like I said, I'm going on record here where I said I didn't start out with it and everything was fine. I've never had to make a claim besides a 30 by 60 getting destroyed. My advice is if you can start with insurance, you should, because it's risky. I was fine, but there could have been something that happened, and I would have been ruined as a 25-year-old kid. Having to pay tons of money for medical and maybe getting sued. I would have been ruined. Don't take on the risk yourself. That's why you pay for insurance. You do what you're doing. You do what you do every day with your business, and you put the risk of that large sum of money that might have to be paid on someone else. You pay a little bit of money, and then they cover you. So my biggest advice is don't be like me and start off without, because something's going to happen to one of you. Not all of you, but something's going to happen to one of you if you don't have insurance. And I don't want to be responsible for saying, yeah, just don't get it. Just don't get it. But with that being said, I'm just telling you my story. I didn't have it, but I eventually did get it. Now I've got all those insurances. Everything's covered. Oh, and then once you have a building, there's another insurance. Then you got to get building insurance, cover the contents of your office and things, and cover the building. The building insurance does not cover what's in here. That covers the inland marine, covers that, but the building insurance covers the actual building and like the contents, the office, the heater, the computers, things like that. So until you get a building, then you can deal with that. But that one's not very expensive. So that is insurances. I kind of went over them real quick, but if you have more questions about each one individually or just more general questions, leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer. And on comments, I think my first tent is going to be up May 4th if she goes with it. Otherwise, it's going to be May 11th. And then from there on, it's just every single weekend, tent, tables, chairs, dishes, blah, blah, blah. So it's getting crazy. So I set up a Patreon to focus on 50 people at a time for $12 a month. And I've got 5 patrons right now, which thank you very much. And I answer the questions, and if I don't have the question, I research, because I know a lot of people in this business, so I ask them if I don't have the answer. So as it gets busy, I'm probably not going to be able to answer YouTube comments. So if you want direct access, someone that you can just bounce questions or ideas off of, I got that set up so I can focus, because I still want to help people, but I got to do this first. So I'm focusing on 50 people. And if you can't do it or don't want to do it, that's fine. I'm still making videos. You can still post an idea for a video, because I need ideas. I'm running out of ideas right now, just me sitting blabbering at the camera. I can't wait to actually set up a tripod and show us working and how we're using things and how we're doing things. But right now, it's just me blabbering at a camera. So I need ideas where I can just blabber at the camera. So put those down in there. Sign up for Patreon if you want. And thanks for watching. Have a good day.